There are many exciting receivers in the 2025 NFL draft class, but in my opinion, none are as exciting as Tetairoa Mcmillan. This guy was a prodigy coming out of high school, is truly one of the best prospects we've ever seen at the receiver position, and has the ability to, I think, break the NFL if used properly. Unfortunately, despite having a bad coaching staff this year and a bad game plan, Mcmillan was still one of the top options in the country, and just watching him play makes me wonder what his ceiling could be in the league. But how did Tetairoa Mcmillan get to this point? Originally, he was never supposed to go to Arizona, as he was supposed to be an Oregon Duck. He was also nearly a 5-star recruit, and had a record-setting career down with the Wildcats. In today's video, we're going to go through his story of how he went from a prodigy receiver to the #1 wide receiver in his draft class so far. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the rise of Tetairoa Mcmillan. Okay, so before we get started, go down to the comment section below and let me know what player I should cover next from this year's 2025 rookie class, and check out my playlist with all my other videos. But in order to understand how we got to this point, we first need to go back in time and talk about his rise. Tetairoa Mcmillan was born in the state of Hawaii, and coming from a town I'm not even going to try to pronounce, it effectively translates to drinkable water. This was a nod to the area's fertile agricultural history, but he wouldn't spend that much time there. Eventually, when he was 12 years old, the family would move to Southern California, where he started to play tackle football. Mcmillan was a corner and a linebacker on his Pop Warner team, and he also played volleyball. This seems to be a huge thing out in Southern California, as Nico Iamaleava was also a big-time volleyball player. His mom played the sport in college, and he would eventually rise up the ranks in that. When he was in 8th grade, Mcmillan would switch from quarterback to receiver, and actually joined a youth football team with a player by the name of Noah Fifita. He said, quote, "In the long run, I made a good decision playing receiver." Noah Fifita ended up becoming a big-time quarterback in high school, and is at Arizona with him. In 2019, Tetairoa Mcmillan, otherwise known as T-Mac, had become a 6'4" freshman at Servite High School, and word was getting around about how good of an athlete he was. As a football player on the freshman team, he played both receiver and safety. The team was 5-0 until he broke his collarbone, and as I said, he also played basketball and volleyball and wore size 15 shoes. In his rookie season of varsity football, he was so versatile that people were convinced he could do pretty much everything. At nearly 6'5" with springs in his feet, Mcmillan was an all-state receiver, an all-conference volleyball player, and a basketball forward. During spring practice, college recruiters would drop by and would only need to watch him for a little bit. They were stunned to learn that he was a freshman at the time. They would then offer him a scholarship, and apparently he made one-handed catches as if he were Odell Beckham Jr., and was an honors student and the backup long snapper. His coach said, quote, "He can literally do anything. He can do it all." He was only a sophomore when he was named to the 2019 All-Orange County football team, and as a junior, he was All-State, and was also the California Wide Receiver of the Year. With scholarship offers from every school in the country, he narrowed his list to Arizona, Oregon, and USC. It was worth noting at the time that his teammates Noah Fifita, quarterback, and tight end Keon Burnett had also been committed to the Arizona Wildcats. He then went into his senior year as one of the most elite receivers in high school football. As his coach said, quote, "What separates him from everyone else is how he makes the extraordinary look ordinary. So many times you think you have him covered, and somehow he wins possession of the ball, making an outstanding catch." Honestly, volleyball helped him a lot, as his jumping ability got him so high that he was able to apply that to the football field. As a senior, Tetairoa Mcmillan was a finalist for the National Player of the Year, alongside Nick Singleton and Cade Klubnik. He ended up hauling in 88 catches for 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns, and also had 35 tackles and 8 interceptions on defense. He was headed to Oregon, but then he wasn't. He had built strong relationships with Oregon head coach Mario Cristobal and his staff, but on December 6th of that year, Cristobal left for Miami. Arizona then pulled off one of the biggest recruiting flips in school history just before the end of the early signing period. They flipped Mcmillan from Oregon. He had 3 guys from the local area he was friends with who were all committed to Arizona, and even with all this, they thought it was a pipe dream for Mcmillan to end up there. Noah Fifita said, quote, "I didn't think he'd come. Oregon was his dream school." He had a week to decide what he wanted to do, and he said the week wasn't as stressful as you might think because his family and friends had his back, and they would support whatever decision he would make. Oregon was hoping that Mcmillan would wait until February to sign so that they could get him on campus with Dan Lanning. However, he felt comfortable signing with Arizona given his relationship with Jedd Fisch and the rest of the staff. He said his teammates also played a role in his decision to flip, as I said, they had Noah Fifita and Keon Burnett. He said, quote, "Everybody wants to be on a winning team, but the ultimate goal is to get to the NFL, and I'm very confident that Arizona can get me there." As I said, this was a huge get for the Wildcats, as he was the highest rated recruit in the history of Arizona football. This guy pretty much did everything for them. As according to 24/7 Sports, Tet McMillan was the number 37 overall recruit, a 4-star player, and the 4th best wide receiver in the class of 2022. So how would he end up doing at Arizona alongside his buddies? Let's take a look. Okay, so when Tetairoa arrived at Arizona, he was alongside his teammates, as I said. He played with Jacob Manu, Noah Fifita, and Keon Burnett, as they would all arrive in 2022 there. How would they end up doing as freshmen? Well, Tetairoa would break out. He caught 3 passes for 53 yards in his first career touchdown in a win over San Diego State, had 4 catches against Mississippi State, and then had 3 straight touchdowns against Cal, Colorado, and number 12 Oregon. His best game of the season, where he proved he would be a future superstar, was against Washington. He ended up catching 7 passes for 132 yards and 2 total touchdowns. To finish the year, he'd have touchdowns against both Utah and UCLA, and Tetairoa would finish his freshman season with 39 catches for 702 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was now blossoming into a future star, and his first season went according to plan. 2023, though, is when Arizona would absolutely break out, as he had touchdowns in his first 3 games, and this included an 8-catch, 161-yard, and a touchdown performance on the road against Mississippi State, which they controversially lost. They ended up losing Jaden DeLora eventually, and against Washington, Noah Fifita came in, and all of a sudden, he was reunited with his former quarterback from high school. He ended up catching 2 touchdowns in that loss to Washington, and then would have 6 catches for 138 yards in a loss to USC. It was a pretty insane start to the season, but he was just now getting going. He helped them beat 3 straight ranked teams in number 19 Washington State, number 11 Oregon State, and number 19 UCLA, before finishing with an insane 4-game stretch. He went for over 100 yards and 9 catches and a touchdown against Colorado in a win, helped them beat number 22 Utah with over 100 yards, and then against their arch rival Arizona State, McMillan had 11 catches for 266 yards and 1 touchdown. This was enough for Arizona to end up having a tremendous season, and they would play in the Alamo Bowl against number 12 Oklahoma. In that game, McMillan would also go crazy, as he finished with 10 catches for 160 yards. In total, McMillan became one of the best receivers in college football, finishing with 90 total receptions for 1,402 yards and 10 scores. Noah Fifita and Tetairoa Mcmillan had saved Arizona football, but now, after winning 10 games for just the 4th time in school history, they'd be faced with a tough decision. Jedd Fisch decided to take the head coaching job at Washington after DeBoer left for Alabama, and they brought in Brent Brennan from San Jose State. This led them to making a decision about where they should go. Noah Fifita's dad remembers being on a call with both his son and Tet, and Noah said, quote, "Is it crazy that we're going to stay?" And he said, quote, "I was like, nah, that's who you guys are." So yeah, they decided to stick around for the 2024 season, and unfortunately, it would not go according to plan. After being picked to be near the top of the Big 12, McMillan had a good year, but other than that, it was tough sledding down in Arizona. In their first game, though, McMillan proved that he was the top receiver in this year's draft class, as against New Mexico, he had 10 catches for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns. This is one of the best single-game performances we've seen in years in college football, and he followed it up a couple weeks later with 11 catches for 138 yards in a game against Kansas State, which I personally was at. Watching him in person, Tetairoa Mcmillan is nearly impossible to cover. He kind of proved that for the remainder of the year, but unfortunately Arizona lost a lot of games. After a win over number 10 Utah, which ended up being really bad, McMillan had 3 games where he really shined. He had 8 catches for 161 yards against Texas Tech, 10 catches for 200 yards and a touchdown in a loss to West Virginia, and 9 catches for 115 yards against TCU. He finished his college career against number 16 Arizona State, and they would get blown out this time. Tet had 6 catches and a touchdown in that one. With Noah Fifita struggling and a bad offense, McMillan's numbers should have gone down, but they really didn't. He still had 84 catches for 1,319 yards and 8 touchdowns. McMillan had a stellar career at Arizona. He ended up having 3,423 yards, which was the best in school history. One Arizona Wildcats website said, quote, "Tetairoa Mcmillan is the best wide receiver in Arizona Wildcats history. There's no debate. He's got it all: height, hands, route running, catch radius, speed, yards after catch, and the mental side of things." He was seen as a top 10 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, so he decided to declare. After having 2 straight seasons of over 1,300 yards, he's now making the jump to the NFL. As I said earlier, he has everything: the height, the hands, the route running, the catch radius, the speed, the yards after catch, and the production. He said, quote, "People look at me as a bigger receiver, which I am. I'm physically dominant, but at the end of the day, I'm able to run every route in the route tree, I'm able to play inside or outside, and I feel like a lot of people and a lot of teams are sleeping on me right now." I'm not quite sure who was sleeping on him, but he further bolstered his draft stock as his AIQ score was actually the highest of any receiver in this year's draft class. The best part about Mcmillan as a prospect, well, there's just no limitation on where he'd fit in the NFL, and that's why I think he has a chance to break it. The guy can pretty much do everything, and to me, is worth it. He had good production despite being on a bad team and a bad system. He produced for years, and then physically, he checks every single box. He also proved that he was a pretty loyal player, and I'm not sure if that really means anything in the NFL anymore, but in my book, it does. Many project him as the first receiver off the board this year, and I see him going in the top 10. It's crazy to me that this guy has always been a big deal, as in middle school people were talking about him, and for once, a player of his kind of magnitude actually lived up to the hype. But what do you guys think? If you're an Arizona or an NFL fan, what do you think of Tetairoa Mcmillan? Where do you think he should go in the NFL? And what players should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.